Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm going to share with you all my July completed pages. I have some hits and misses to show you. Not too many misses, but there is at least one, unfortunately, that I'm not real happy with. All right, so I'm actually going to get started with that one. So let me clear these off. Okay, so this page comes from Dreamland Coloring Whimsical World by Renata Krawczyk. And I did this squirrel page here. I'm calling it squirrel page. So I went from my favorite page in this book, this one, to my least very quickly. The end of June, I did this page. And I used a very summery color palette, and then I did a very monochromatic background with chalk pastels and wanted to create the same thing in another page with a different color palette, and it was just not the same. So I will put the color palette over here on this side. So my, thought process again was to create or use that color palette with all the main objects, and then use a more softer, muted tone, monochromatic feel in the back. So the whole background was done in this kind of peach shade, chalk pastels. And then I think I went over these branches. I think first I had them green and then I changed it to purple. And then I did the green and the colors just weren't coming along like I wanted. And so I decided, well, maybe because they have these string of lights, maybe I want a more like nighttime scene. So I went over the background with black chalk, and now it looks very like smoky, which I don't know if I really want that look in a forest, but I thought I couldn't go any darker. Like I thought maybe I could just do acrylic paint or black marker, but then that would camouflage all these branches. So I don't know, I kept trying to shade it and use different things on it, and it just wasn't coming together. So anyway, that is my miss for the month. I used chalk pastels, alcohol markers as a base, and then did some color pencil shading and used let's see, some acrylic markers, like Posca, and some gel pens. All right, so let's get rid of this one real quick. All right, next page comes from Dowdle Doodles, and this one I did do a video on. And the video was basically showing you how I use certain techniques for more visual texture. So like the brick and for the trees. This is the type of book that you can try to copy the original image. And yeah, I pretty much used every medium possible. I think I brought out all the big guns for this one. Alcohol markers, water-based markers, Prismacolor pencils, fine liners, ink tints, acrylic paint markers for the little flowers. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. These do take some time when you're trying to duplicate, but it was fun to try to get that brick texture. The colors aren't like exact, but that's okay. You get kind of the basic idea. So yeah, fun page to do for July. This is, National Parks by Eric Dowdle. All right, the next page comes from Mandolin by Maria Trolle. And this page was actually about covering up a bleed through from a previous page. So here is the finished page. And then, so the bleed through came from this page. I don't know what happened. I was using mostly colored pencils, and then I went over it with a water brush marker, and it just may have gone over too many times, and some of the pink bled through, and of course it happened to be right on her face. So very unfortunate. I'll put a picture up of what it looked like. I thought about just kind of using acrylic paint, painting over it, covering it up in that way, but then decided to step out of the box and use the pink spot as a design element. So I'm using a set color palette for this book, mostly Prismacolors, Polychromos, and there's a few Black Widows in there. And so I'm using pinks, teals, and greens for this page. And she kind of looked like this green goddess to me. So I kept her skin almost white, but then like this glow of a teal shade just around the edges. And then for the background, this is all done with colored pencil, but then I used like a Tombow marker and created these little spots around the circle. So I think it feels very airy and breezy to me. And since this looks very mythical, I thought, why not just add some pink spots to her face? And then added pink spots to kind of match inside the flowers. So that kind of ties it all together. I loved the bright lime green in her eyes, so I incorporated the butterflies to have that light green too, to tie all those in together. One negative thing I'm finding about having a set color palette and using the same pencils is that I am running out of some of the pencils. Now, Polychromos and Prismacolors are open stock, so I'm not so concerned about those, but I do have a few Black Widows that are not open stock, so I may have to find an alternative for those. But so far I've been really enjoying working with this color palette. I mean, there's so many colors here to kind of mix and match, so I haven't felt bored with the colors. But yeah, anyway, I'm happy with that page. All right, next page comes from Mandala Explosion, coloring book, fun for all ages. This is by, I think, Coloring Realm. It's an Amazon printed book. So yeah, it's just kind of fun to play around with new stuff when I get it. So I did this page. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was playing around with some new markers. I was school shopping with my daughter and found these. I had never seen these before. Sharpie S-Note. And so they're not like the regular Sharpies where they're going to bleed through on your paper. They're more of a water-based marker. But yeah, they have these really pretty, fun colors. They do have a chisel tip to it. So just one-sided, and I feel a little clumsy with chisel tips, I have to be honest. So I prefer just like a bullet nib or brush tip. But yeah, it just needs more practice, I guess, working with the chisel tip. Anyway, so those are some of the colors that come in the pack. And oh, the only other thing I did kind of fun here was I used Wink a Stella in the middle ring here. So I don't know if that's, hopefully that's picking up the sparkle. All right, so yeah, just a simple page to try out some new markers. All right, next page comes from the book Serene, and I just got this a few months ago, first time working in it, so I was a little nervous because, I mean, the artwork is just so amazing. It was kind of an expensive book, so, you know, I just really wanted my pages to be special in here. So I did a video on this page too. It's finding inspiration and using ocean and beach color palettes. So I had found a couple color palettes that I liked that were kind of coastal and beachy, but I couldn't decide which color palette I wanted to use. And so I decided, well, why not just use both of them? And I didn't know when I first started if I was going to lean more towards one and then just add a few of the other color palette. But it ended up being kind of a 50-50, like a good use of both color palettes. And yeah, so I love the coral colors for the coral, and then tied in some teals for these little swirly bits that kind of reminded me of water movement. Her hair and some of these other accents are in these golden tones. I used Winkastella in her hair to give it that very kind of shiny gold look. And then, so I use a base of markers, mostly alcohol markers, but I think there was one water-based marker. And yeah, and then just color pencil shading. So I think I did go back in a few areas to add like a drop shadow with a gray alcohol marker. And then the background, I was actually going to just leave white. And then I thought, no, I want to try something cool because it, I didn't want it to be so plain. So I used pan pastels because I thought that would be more forgiving for me. I'm more familiar working with pan pastels, so I was more comfortable doing that. And so, yeah, I just kind of did a very jittery movement, darker colors on the bottom, as you can see, and then lighter at the top. And then they're all kind of going in this direction. And I think it makes it look like, I don't know if she's like sinking to the bottom kind of and the water is getting pushed out, but I do feel like there is a good amount of like water motion here. And then for the bubbles, I used an electric eraser and a white Posca to get some of those bubbles that look like maybe they're in the distance, and then the white Posca kind of helps bring some forward too. So anyway, yes, really happy with it. Her skin tone is also done with pan pastels, a little bit of shading. I kept it very simple, no like extreme makeup or anything, because I really wanted all this to stand out. So yeah. All right, so I'm happy with this one. All right, next page comes from this book. This is Ritabermans, Welt, unter, Lupe, Lande. And I was just kind of wanting to play around with some markers and a watercoloring technique, which I've done multiple times, but I was anticipating getting some new markers, and so just wanted to play around with my old ones for a little bit just to get a feel for it before I did the product review. So these were done with a Parku brush marker, so they have the brush tip on one end and like a fine tip on the other end, and they're water-based, which means that you have the versatility of using them as like a watercolor. So that is what I did mostly for the base of all the flowers and leaves, and then went back over with the actual marker to add some darker variations here and there. The background is done with pan pastel, and yeah, I think that I'm happy with it. Like I said, I was just kind of playing around with it, so I didn't really have like a true focus of how I wanted it to look. I wish I would have done like a different color for this flower. So once I do this page, I'll just have to kind of balance that color heavy on this side too. So, but overall, it's fun to use the markers as a watercolor technique to get all those different variations of shades. Okay, so then my next one is, this is a new book for me. I love Ritabermans books, so I'm just slowly kind of building up my collection of hers. So this is Welt, unter, Lupe, Wasser, so under the water. And so I did get those different products. They are the ZSCM, and I did do a video review of these products. So a brush tip on one end and then fine tip on the other. And so I just add this to like a ceramic dish and then use a water brush to apply. So base coat pretty much all the watercolor with that, and then go back over it with the brush tip to darken up some of those areas. And then you can also use it to create more of a watercolor, like really light effect on these other areas. And then I also received the ZSCM glitter paint markers, which are really fun to use. So I'll hold this up and kind of turn it around so you can see there are some little shiny, sparkly bits in there, which I think makes it really pretty. Yeah, and I just wanted the fish and these sea creatures to be more warm tones, and then the bubbles and the water to be cool tones. I went ahead and did that page too because it was simple, and then I can just incorporate those colors there. Yeah, so if you're interested in seeing that product review, check out my video. All right, next page is going to come from Gentle Nature. This is a Karlon Douglas Black River Art publication, and I chose this page. One good thing about this book is I believe there's 50 images, 50 pages, but 25 images. So at the back of the book, there are the same pictures as the front. So yeah, here's the other one. So actually, when I was first looking at this page and envisioning it, this is not what I was picturing at all. It's like almost complete opposite of what I was envisioning. So I plan on maybe going back and doing this page more of what I was thinking. I don't really know what happened here. I just kind of started and I thought colors were going to be darker. Yeah, so I thought her hair would be a lot darker. I was thinking her skin tone would be a lot darker, and then I was going to do light blue butterflies. Yeah, so the butterflies were the last thing I did. But I think it looks nice. I'm just saying that, yeah, maybe I'll go back and kind of do more of what I was envisioning the first time. I really like the soft undertones though in the background, and then the butterflies like this dark kind of black cherry purple color in the front. So yeah, most of it was done with pan pastels or chalk pastels, and it seems to work really well on these pages. I like the size of it because it's not too big. These pages are, or the images are, what I would call like more of a sketchy grayscale book. Some are a little bit more grayscale than others. Some of them are a little bit more sketchy. So yeah, I'm just describing it as more of a sketchy grayscale. So yeah, markers work well, and then just going back over it with color pencil for shading to get more of those depth of colors. I was planning on doing more pink on her clothes, and then just decided to do more of a black and white shirt. So yeah, overall I'm happy with it. Like I said, it was just way different than what I had planned on originally. So, but still pretty. All right, so this next page comes from another grayscale book, and this is also by Karlon Douglas Black River Arts. This grayscale is a more, I guess you would say, traditional grayscale. It is like graphic design images and then turned to grayscale. So I chose this one. There are quite a few like Alice in Wonderland images in this book, and I liked this one with the mushrooms and the flamingos and the white rabbit, kind of a different kind of look to the white rabbit. And then when you start to color, you kind of really see all these cool little details, you know, like the lamps, the little watch hanging here, the cards. Yeah, so just some cool little details in there once you really like stop and look at them. So I do use a color reference. So these images are taken from Shutterstock, and so I'll just go and search like Alice in Wonderland, and then I'll find the image and the artist and start looking at all their different artwork. So this artwork Our artist is by Ellerslie, I think. I'll put it up here so you guys can look. So yeah, so anyway, any of these books, or I shouldn't say any of them, a few of these like Grimm World books, there's a couple different artists that they use from the Shutterstock. And so if I'm wanting kind of a color reference, then I'll go look at that. So yeah, alcohol markers for a base and then colored pencil for shading. It was a little challenging to do these bigger areas just because the pencil wanted to kind of have that wax bloom to it. But in the end, I think they turned out pretty good. For these little dimensional kind of spots here on the mushroom, I used a white Posca and also a black Posca to kind of help with the shading. And then I go back over it either with a color pencil or alcohol marker, just so it's not so stark white. Like as you can see, this one is a little bit whiter. I can probably go over it with color pencil again, and just to kind of dull it out so it's not so stark white. And then I do use like a gray marker and add a little bit of a drop shadow so that it really makes those little things pop off there. Background is done with pan pastel. And yeah, I'm happy with it. I like how the cards turned out. Obviously, in the colored version, they look very old and distressed. So I was hoping to achieve that same thing, and I think it looks really good. I never think I'm gonna like grayscale coloring, but then I feel like it turns out so cool at the end. So anyway, if you haven't tried grayscale coloring, you gotta give it a try. All right, and then my last page for the month comes from A Million Magical Creatures by Lulu Mayo. And this one I used my Sharpie S-Note markers again. And I also used color pencils. And then for the background, I had bought these Shuttle Art gel crayons a while ago, like several months ago. And then I kind of took my little break, and then I was like, well, I really want to try those. So yeah, I did the background, kind of a sunset background. This was one where I just started a color. I wasn't real happy with it. And then you start adding like the color pencil shading and some of these other little elements, and then it kind of starts to pull together. So I did use those glitter paint markers again, so you can see in her tail, and the dolphins here in the waves, some silver inside the water. I used some like acrylic paint markers just to add little dots here and there. The stars are more of a fluorescent acrylic paint marker. But yeah, I think it came out pretty good. For some reason in these books, I'd like to use more pastel colors. I have a unicorn one that I've done kind of the same thing. I don't know, it's just, I guess, the theme of the book kind of fits with that, using those fun, like lighter and more pastel shades. All right, so that's it for this month. Thanks for joining me, everyone, and hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next month.